Hey folks, Dr. Joe here. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. I'm having a wonderful day. Glad you could spend a little time with me today. A lot going on. So I appreciate you taking time with me today. And as always, you guys are awesome. My listeners are the best. We're going to talk today. It's funny because people always ask me before I do the show, what are you going to talk about? And I'm going to talk about bread. Not the band, of course, and I'm sure, and I felt bad because I came in, and Ahmad, of course, our excellent producer here, I said, listen, we're going to do a show on bread. And I said, there was a band by the name of Bread, and he kind of looked at me like a deer in the headlights, and I said, "Ooh, gosh, I'm old." So, Ahmad, you could at the breaks, maybe you could listen to some Bread on YouTube or something. Okay,
I will try to become aware.
Very, very romantic music. Yes,
Just in time.
Yeah, it is. That's
Tis the
right.
season.
It is 'tis the season. That's right, for love and romance. So Bread is going to be. You're going to become a Bread fan now. Lead singer David Gates, who now has gone country. I think actually, when you hear the music and you'll think this guy's country now. Interesting. Anyway, if you're old enough to remember bread, that's what we're going to talk about today. Bread and wheat and grains and what happens to your body when you put these things in your body. Because so many of you, hey, I'm Italian. And this was a real harsh awakening for me when I realized how bad this stuff was. But for most of us, bread's one of your favorite foods, right? Fluffy biscuits, you got baguettes, croissants, even just simple toast, a little butter on it. That stuff is like heaven, isn't it? Well, for me, it was. And the smell, huh? Well, you walk in a bakery, who doesn't love that smell? I grew up in a place called Hoboken, New Jersey. And in New York, New Jersey area, a lot of bakeries, still a lot of bakeries there. And that's a smell I miss it so much, even though I wouldn't eat some of the stuff they make anymore. That smell is just so great. But there's a lot of confusion about bread and where it fits in. Does it really have a place in a healthy diet? And if there are, and I know I was just talking today to someone, and they said, well, tell me what a good bread is. What's the best bread? I know a lot of you will call up and you'll say, what's a good bread? And you got to listen to the show first. Don't call with that question. I'm going to cover that. That's kind of what the whole show's about. In fact, I'll even open up the lines now if you have any healthcare questions. The number is 844-44-DR-JOE, 844-44-DRJOE. Any of your healthcare questions, not just about bread. Now, the Bible, if we're Bible readers, almost commands you to it. Give us this day our what? Daily bread. The government puts it on the base of the food pyramid. It's been called the staff of life. So how could you say something bad about bread? And then all the Italians go, you better not talk bad about bread for crying out loud. I'll come after you. Now, I'm going to disagree that bread is something that we should put in our diet. It's something we probably want to take out of our diet. And hopefully in the next few minutes you'll go, you'll give the Dr. Joe was right. Because Dr. Joe usually is right, by the way. Average American consumes, how much wheat? How much wheat do you think we consume in a year? 55 pounds of wheat flour every year. So wheat flour, refined flour, is the number one source of calories in the American diet. Now think about your diet. What do you eat a lot of? Breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas. Yeah. And not just every day, every meal. People are sucking this stuff down every single meal. Now you've heard about gluten. That's a big buzzword, gluten. Gluten is a protein. It's found in wheat. But the gluten is found in other things too, like corn has gluten, but it's wheat gluten that we're concerned about. It's like breast milk. Human milk has different types of proteins than cow's milk and dog's milk. It's all called casein, but there's different types of casein. Well, there's different types of gluten. And the wheat gluten, or the gluten that contains something called gliadin, a lot of chemistry today. Gliadin is the protein found in the gluten, the bad glutens, that cause a lot of problems. And so a lot of people think, well, I can eat corn, I don't have a problem, but if I eat wheat, I have a problem. It's not due necessarily to the gluten, it's due to the gliadin found in the gluten. Did you follow that? I know, getting confusing here right off the bat. So is gluten-free bread really better? Okay, and can you still eat bread, and can you do it and maintain a healthy lifestyle? And those are just a few of the questions we're going to cover today. So you're going to be surprised at the answers, and you're going to probably be mad at me for the answers too, unfortunately. So if you've ever set foot in a grocery store, you read any newspaper like in the past 50 years, you're familiar with the message that whole grains are healthy, and the more you eat, the better off you are. Must eat whole grains, whole grain bread. Whole grain is better than white bread. For different reasons, yes and no. And that's why you got to listen. Make sure you tune in. So, hey, do me a favor. Go tell your friends. Tell them to tune in right now. Family. Say, hey, tune in right now. Get your radio on because we got a lot to talk about. And I know you're such a bread fan. You need to hear Dr. Joe today. Truth is, there's nothing essential about whole grains. In fact, they're not good for you. And the less grains you eat in your diet, the better off you're going to be. Now, there are some exceptions if you're going to eat grains, what to eat and what not to eat. So some of them are not as bad as others. I really want you to cut out the bad ones. I'll negotiate with you. I'll give you the good ones, but I want you to cut back on the bad ones. Now, you may have heard the term high glycemic foods. Glycemic index is how quickly blood sugar rises when you eat a certain food. And if you're eating something that's very low in fiber, now fiber can only be found in plants. Fiber is not found in animal products. If you're eating something low in fiber, like, for example, orange juice. If you drink orange juice, even has pulp in it, pretty much not a lot of fiber, very low fiber. And the sugar gets into your body, gets absorbed very quickly, and it spikes your blood sugar. So it has a high glycemic index. If you eat the whole orange has fiber. And the fiber slowly pushes the food through the colon, giving you a slow release of sugar. So glycemic index is important because your body can process things slowly, but it has a bit of a time processing it pretty quickly. So this triggers, if you have the high glycemic foods, you release a lot of something called insulin. Insulin is released from the pancreas when you eat sugar. Breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pasta, sugars. And there's the way insulin works is it goes to the cells and it acts like a key and it unlocks the cells. And it opens up the cell so that it can take sugar in. And that's good. When you don't have a lot of insulin, the cell will open up and release fat. So insulin is a key here. It's either going to let fat in, or if it's not there, the cell's going to let fat out. So one way to lose weight, a vital way to lose weight, is to cut back on your sugars because it cuts back on the insulin, allowing your body to start to burn off this fat. Not only not storing it, but actually burning it. Pretty cool stuff. So, I hear music. That means I got to go to a break. Folks, I'm going to open up the lines. If you have a question, give me a call, 844-44-Dr. Joe, 844-44-DRJOE. My website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. We archive, got hundreds, probably over 1,000 hours of archive radio shows and videos there. If you have questions, call us here at the station, 844-44-Dr. Joe, or you can send me questions through the website, drjoeesposito.com. Hey, folks, do me a favor. Tell your friends about the show. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Hey, folks, thanks for being here. I do appreciate you taking time out of your day. We're talking today about bread, not the band, as Ahmad does now. He's learning at least. He's listened to a few bread songs now. Tell you, Ahmad, the girls love bread. I'm telling you, that was the stuff we'd play in high school. I had my 8-track player in my van. And
I was about to say, this is the same time you had your panel van, right?
That wasn't a panel van.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I had a mural on the side and mag wheels and wooden bumpers and fur interior and had my 8-track player cranking out Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell, and bread. I think I had Olivia Newton-John as well. I think I had my three 8-tracks there. So anyway, so we're talking about bread today, not David Gates and company, but actually that's the lead singer for Bread, Ahmad, so you know who that is. What bread actually does to you and what happens when you eat these foods that are made with a lot of grains. And so we talked earlier that your body releases insulin, and when insulin is released, it causes the cells to open up and allow sugars in. And if you don't eat a lot of insulin, the cells then will open up and let toxic fat out. So high insulin levels promote that storage of visceral belly fat that surrounds your organs, and it can help promote disease. Because one of the questions I get quite often from you, my listeners, is, Dr. Joe, I just can't get rid of my belly. And a lot of that has to do with the carbohydrate intake. And not good carbohydrates, bad carbohydrates. Because carbs, people talk carbs, got to go on a low-carb diet, no-carb diet, got to eat meat, got to eat all fat, got to go ketogenic. I'm not sure I agree with all that necessarily because there are good carbohydrates, and I want you to add those to your diet. Now, what would a good carbohydrate be? A good carbohydrate would be fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Whole foods, not the store, but foods in the form that they were picked in. And if you eat your diet consisting mainly of foods in the form that they were picked in, and not processed, you're going to be pretty happy with the rest of your life. And your risk of disease drops dramatically. And that's the thing is patients come, I've been in practice now 33 years. And I have a team of doctors I work with. And they come and see us. Hopefully you will too. I think you should. If you haven't come see us yet, you should. because we want to check your nervous system, we want to check your digestive system, and we want to check your diet. And patients come to me all the time and say, Dr. Joe, I have heart disease, I have diabetes, and you can get screened by certain companies. They'll do screenings for you to determine if you have any cholesterol in your arteries, and it's important to know these things. And then it's important to take the action step. And I say, well, Dr. Joe, I can't believe that I have heart disease or diabetes or osteoporosis, and I'll say, well, let's go back in time. Let's go back a few years and talk about your diet. Well, yeah, you're right, Dr. Joe. I did eat a lot of bad stuff, but I'm willing to change now. Good. It's never too late. As long as you're at the top of the daisies and not the bottoms, that means we're okay. We can do something to help you get better. And the thing you have control over is the nutrition. So when you have high blood sugar, it forms something. The sugar binds with proteins and creates something called advanced glycation end products. These initials are AGE. It actually ages you. So when you're eating sugar and it combines with proteins in your body, now these nasty little compounds, they speed up the aging process and they damage tissues, especially your skin. And what does that mean? It forms wrinkles. So if you're eating a high-fiber, plant-based diet, the food is being pushed slowly through your colon and a little bit is getting released at a time, a little bit of sugar. And the body can handle that. But when you give this big rushes of sugar, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, bagels, bam, that's when you start having the problem. According to research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, if you eat 2 slices of bread, it spikes your blood sugar just about the same as drinking a can of soda or eating a candy bar. It's about 6 teaspoons of sugar. Now, a can of soda has about 9 teaspoons, so I'm not sure how they put that together, but still, you get the idea. 6 teaspoons of sugar in two slices of bread. And that's not good. So even if you're eating natural, whole grain, organic, once it's processed and broken down, it's not as good for you. And certain things are higher in the sugar. But we also got to talk about things like gluten, which we're going to cover a lot. So don't go anywhere. Make sure you tell your friends to tune in. We're going to talk about gluten and gliadins and glutenins and wheat germ agglutinin. A lot of chemistry, but you're going to be blown away by it. So that's a typical slice of bread. 2 slices of bread is like eating a candy bar. So about 75% of the carbohydrates in wheat are in the form of something called amylopectin A. Now that's a compound that is unique in just how rapidly it transforms into glucose. Because the sugar that your cells use is glucose. So if you're eating fructose, galactose, maltose, it has to be converted into glucose. And so the process, this amylopectin A from bread converts very quickly into the glucose, and that's when it spikes so badly. This is why wheat spikes in blood sugar are usually higher than most other foods, even the same amount of carbohydrates are consumed. So once again, you look at carbohydrates, you say, okay, I should have about 40 grams of carbohydrate, 40 grams of net carbs a day. Now, what's a net carb? Take the carbs that you eat. Let's assume you're eating 100 grams of carbs. Then subtract the fiber that you're eating. So if you're eating 100 grams of carbohydrates a day and 50 grams of fiber, your net carbs are 50. Did you follow that? Total carbs minus fiber equal what your net carbs are. And you really want to keep those net carbs around 40 a day. And that's a little challenging. But the cool part is when you eat whole foods, you're going to get more fiber, and that's going to help offset that. So we're looking at something like amylopectin A, which comes from wheat, that converts into sugar very quickly, and that's what we don't want. Also, there's a cholesterol is an issue, too, when it comes to heart disease. I'm going to tie this all together as we go through here. The bad cholesterol, the low-density lipoproteins, the tiny ones, are the ones we have to be worried about. A study published in the Journal of American Medical Association showed that people with high levels of small-density lipoproteins have a 300% greater risk of heart attack. So a lot of doctors believe the number one risk factor for heart disease is the low-density lipoprotein. And guess what triggers these dangerous compounds to form more than any other food? Amylopectin A found in wheat. So you come to me and you say, Dr. Joe, I'm here for chiropractic care. I'm a chiropractor. I'm board certified in chiropractic, orthopedics, pain management, double board certified in nutrition, BS in nutrition, retired dietitian, award-winning author. This show is heard coast to coast and around the world. It's, as far as I know, the number one health talk show in the country on radio. And so people come to me all the time, and the number one pill that they're taking is for high blood pressure. The number 2 pill they're taking is for cholesterol. And they say, well, Doc, my doctor told me to cut out my animal products. Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. But we also got to cut out the amylopectin A, which is found in wheat. Wow. And then you start to see the liver heal. And when the liver heals, that's when the body starts to get well, which is pretty exciting. So none of this is like you're signing a death warrant. It's all about good stuff. Let's see, I got a question here. That states it has no sugar. Okay. Somebody called in. They didn't want to go on the air, obviously. What about bread that says it has no sugar? All bread has sugar. It's no added sugar, so no like table sugar added, but it's still bad. It has the amylopectin A, it has the gluten, the gliadin, glutenin, wheat germ, agglutinin, which we're going to cover in a little bit. So there's a lot of bad stuff in bread, even if it has no sugar added. So, folks, if you have a question and you want to come on the air, give us a call. The number is 844-44-DR-JOE, 844-44-DRJOE. That number, by the way, rings through to my offices when I'm not on the air. So if you want to make an appointment, if you want information about my supplements, we'll talk about that in a second. If you want to reach us, 844-44-DR-JOE. But call right now. Lines are open. And we'd love to have you on. My website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, easy access 24 hours a day. Hey, tell your friends about the show. We're going to be right back. Hey, folks, thanks for being here today. I really do appreciate you joining the show. I am Dr. Joe Esposito, and what we're talking about today is bread. And not just bread, but wheat specifically. And we'll cover other grains as well. And in fact, Buffy, our screener, Buffy's in there taking your calls at 844-44-Dr. She said, what about rice? Now, rice still converts into a sugar, but it doesn't have the amylopectin A, it doesn't have the gliadin, it doesn't have the wheat germ agglutinin, it doesn't have these other chemicals, or components, I guess I should say, in the wheat that cause a lot of the problems. It's still a sugary thing. But again, if you're eating it with a lot of vegetables, a lot of fiber, it's going to push everything through. But unfortunately, the wheat is the kicker. And it's not the same wheat that your grandparents ate, that even you ate if you're old enough. I mean, when I was a kid, the wheat was different. And when I go to Europe and I eat wheat there, I don't have a problem with it. It's been hybridized here in the United States, and that changed a lot of what happens to the wheat. It increased its protein levels, and that's where the problems come in, the hybridized wheat. So let's talk for a second, then I'll start taking some callers. If you have a question, give us a call, 844-44-Dr. You probably heard sugar triggers the same pleasure centers in your brain as drugs. We've talked about that a lot on this show. That's why it's so hard to say no. And if you're like me, and I bet you are, because your brain works a lot like me, when you put sugar into your brain, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, like if I have a piece of bread, what do I want more of? More bread. Because it stimulates those pleasure centers in the brain, the nucleus accumbens specifically. Dopamine is released. Opioid reaction occurs. Opioids are things that cover up pain and make you feel good. And so you want more. And that's what an addiction is. An addiction is when you do something over and over again, it has an adverse effect on you. So if I have bread one day and I eat a lot of it, well, not necessarily addicted, because I may stop and not have bread again for months and months and months. But I love the flavor of bread. I love the taste of bread. I love the way it makes it feel. I love warm bread. But that's because in addition to the rapid sugar rush that wheats provide, it stimulates the compounds that bind to morphine receptor sites in the brain. It gets me high, and it gets you high too. And that's why it's so hard to say no, because once you start, it's really hard to stop. So the only answer I have for you well, there's two answers actually. Number one is don't eat the bread. Get it out of the house, because if it's in the house, you're going to eat it. That's the problem I have. I got to get bad stuff out of the house. And then number two, there's a supplement that I take every day. Well, I don't take it every day, but I take it often. It's called Gymnema. Gymnema is a great antioxidant, but it also stabilizes your blood sugar. So I tell people this. If you are just crazy out of your mind with sugar, you can go to our website, drjoeesposito.com, and contact our office, and we carry it in our office. It's called Gymnema, or the office number is also 844-44-Dr. We're not on the air. And I tell people, here's the deal. I'll let you eat, but you got to chew one of these caplets first. It doesn't taste good, but that's not what I'm worried about. Chew it until a powder, swallow it, and then try eating sugar. And there's a component in Gymnema that appears to numb your sweet taste buds. And so what you're eating tastes like nothing. And you're like, oh, I don't have to eat it now because I don't taste the sweetness. And so that's a little trick that I do with people that are really hardcore and they can't give up their sugar. I get them on a Gymnema. All right, let's start taking calls at 844-44-Dr. Sarah, how can we... Oh, where's Sarah? Sarah, let's try Sarah here. Sarah, how can we make your day better?
Of all,
yes, go ahead,
can you
Sarah.
hear me?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry about that. Yes.
No problem. I run an animal feed mill for a living, so this is a major conflict of interest for me. But my question is regarding a ketogenic diet, which I'm currently on. Is there a decrease of enzyme deiodinase associated with low carbohydrate diets, specifically the keto diet? And should a hypothyroid patient treated with levothyroxine be switched to either T4, T3 combo or liothyronine exclusively instead?
Oh, that's a lot of big words you just used there. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the ketogenic diet because it does affect your enzymes, absolutely, because we are designed to have a variety of foods. We're not designed to just eat meats and fats. So it's short term, if you want to kick up your weight loss, probably not a bad thing. But just be careful that you're eating only good fats, because if you're eating meat, you got to worry about if they're processed with steroids and hormones and chemicals, if they've been dipped in bleach. So
I'm a farmer, and all of my meat is mine.
Okay. So you know it's yours. So you know it's good then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
So can it affect it? Yes. Second question, T4 and T3. Okay, that's a really complex question. Let me try to fill in the listeners because you know what you're talking about, but I'm not sure the listeners do. Okay, your thyroid hormone, you have something called thyroid-stimulating hormones released from your brain, goes into your thyroid, and your thyroid releases hormones, T1, T2, T3, and T4. T3 is the active form that you need. So T4 has to be converted into T3. And one of the problems is if you're taking a synthetic thyroid, and I'm not saying don't take it, please understand that, the conversion has to occur in your liver. So you have to make sure you have a healthy liver, or else you don't get the good conversion. Did you follow that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you take something like Armour thyroid, which is made from pigs, it has T1, T2, T3, and T4 in it. It's not synthetic. The challenge people have with that is they have to monitor that because every pig is a little different. And so you got to always kind of monitor your thyroid levels to make sure you're where you need to be. I like that form, even though I'm a vegan. I like that form because it has all the thyroids in there. It doesn't have to go into conversion. The synthetic ones, you have to convert, and that's where the problems come in. And the big problem most people have is we just don't get enough iodine. And so I recommend that people get their iodine checked, and if it is low, take something like Dr. Joe's Super Greens that has dulse in it, which is a seaweed, which is a great source of iodine. Does that answer your questions?
Yes. The liothyronine, because it's a T3, does it need to be further converted, or if you're taking a T3, it's just already active as soon as it hits your bloodstream?
Yeah, the T3 is active. That's the form that we need it in. Yeah. And that's why you got to make sure you have a good liver, because if you do have to make a conversion, the liver is where the conversion occurs.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Appreciate that. Wow, Sarah, some good questions there, Sarah. Oh, I got to do it over here. That's right. There we go. Oh, okay, good. Am I okay? Am I not working here on my board, Ahmad? What's going on here? I know what it is. At the break, we'll have to switch it over for me. Okay, let's keep taking some callers here. If you have a question, 844-44 Dr. Joe. Michael, how can we make your day better?
Hey, good evening, Dr. Joe.
Hey there.
Hey, quick question for you regarding your stance against artificial sweeteners. And I must commend you, since I've gotten off of them. My headaches have been tremendously reduced by not taking them.
Excellent. That's great.
I do have a question for you. One artificial sweetener I want your input on, stevia in the raw, especially from the extract plant. Is that acceptable from you?
Yes, because the reason it's acceptable, it's not artificial. The stevia is a plant. In fact, as spring comes around, next time you're in a store that sells plants, like the big box stores or in a nursery, they'll usually sell stevia now. Stevia is being sold, and just look around. Nobody's looking. Tear off a little leaf and chew on it. It's a little tiny thing about the size of your pinky fingernail. You'll be amazed how sweet it is. So if it's pure stevia, I have no problem with it at all, and I use it just about every day. So stevia is great because it's not artificial. It's actually natural. So.
Okay. Very well put, sir. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. Okay, there we go. All right, folks, if you have a question, 844-44 Dr. Joe. We're talking today about wheat and what happens when it gets into the body. And these opiates that are stimulated, they get you hungry. And so you get stuck in this cycle of cravings. You want more and more and more. Now, understand the difference between craving and food and hunger. Craving is when you have to have a certain thing, usually junk food. You don't usually crave watermelon. Hunger is when you actually need to eat. So pay attention to that. All right, folks, going to have to go to a break. The number here is 844-44 Dr. Joe. My website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, #1 Dr. Joe in the world. Lots of archive radio shows there. Again, questions you can send to me through the website as well. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram. Tell your friends about the show. I'll be right back. Hey, folks, Dr. Joe here. Glad you're spending a little time with me today. I know a lot going on in everybody's life, so I do appreciate you spending a little time with me today. I'm very honored, and I appreciate all the calls as well. We're talking today about bread, not the band, but the food that you eat. And a lot of people now switch to a gluten-free bread. And is that better? And a lot of gluten-free bread, cereals, pastas, crackers, cookies, their ingredients don't have a lot of the chemicals in them that wheat has in them. But, however, it's still a sugar. And many times these processed breads, they add a lot of things to them that wouldn't be really good for you either because, to be honest with you, gluten-free bread doesn't taste that good. And so that's good reason to give up your bread. And they'll add things like soy protein, dough conditioners, seed oils, omega-6 fatty acids in the seed oils, corn, rice syrup, sometimes genetically modified corn or genetically modified high fructose corn syrup. So it really isn't, guys, is it better? Maybe it's not as bad. How about we just say that it's not as bad because you're not getting all the junk in, you're not getting the chemicals in the wheat, but you are getting the other things in there. So you'll use cornstarch, rice flour, potato starch, tapioca, sorghum, millet, and you're avoiding the glutens, which is great. But a lot of these powdered starches also increase your blood sugar, and that means these food triggers things like weight gain, especially in the abdomen. They increase blood sugar, insulin resistance, diabetes, cataracts, arthritis, the advanced glycation end products that occur when sugar combines with proteins. So the problem is there really isn't a good bread, a healthy bread. Now, there are some made with almond flour, coconut flour. These are some of the paleo breads that are out there. They're okay, but again, they just don't taste good. They don't taste great, I guess I should say. So if you have to have it, that might be a better choice, but I'd rather that you don't eat it at all, to be honest with you. Let's go back to the callers, 844-44 Joe. Nathan, how can we make your day better?
Hi, Dr. Joe. I enjoy your program. Thanks for taking my call.
Well, you're welcome.
My question's about stevia.
Uh-huh.
I've heard you recommend the organic stevia. I think it's sweet leaf.
Uh-huh.
And my question is, what is it that they add to it that makes it white?
Well, it's interesting, not what they add to it, it's what they take out of it. So the extraction process, when they process it, they remove the chlorophyll. And what's left are called white glycosides. And that's what the white powder is. They usually don't have bleach or chemicals added to it. They just take the chlorophyll out when they process it. So that's why it's white.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for listening. I do appreciate that. And if you have a question like Nathan, give us a call, 844-44-Dr. Joe, 844-44-DRJOE. A lot of people gain weight on a gluten-free diet. I've had people that have celiac disease where they can't eat any gluten whatsoever. Because any type of gluten just tears up their colon and it causes inflammation, diarrhea. But what happens is people think, well, I'm not eating gluten, so I'm going to eat gluten-free cookies, cakes, donuts, brownies. Not a good call because they're still not good for you. Just because they don't have gluten in it doesn't mean they're good for you. They still have a lot of sugars and the other chemicals. In fact, one study showed 81% of people who adopted a gluten-free diet gained weight after 2 years. So it's not the place you really want to be. Now, keep this in mind. Next time you think about gluten-free bread as a healthier choice than wheat bread, like I said, it may not be better. It's just not as bad. I'm trying to use the right words here. Most people are aware that a little bit of protein in the wheat that can cause the big problems is the thing called gluten. Now, for people with celiac and gluten sensitivity, now these are two different things. Even a small amount of gluten can cause digestive problems and cause systemic inflation, autoimmune disease, and the list goes on. So people that have autoimmune conditions, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, Graves' disease, it really is a good idea to stay away from the gluten because you got to bring the inflammation down. You know, I say that, but all of us need to bring the inflammation down in our bodies because inflammation is a component of every single disease known to man. And when you have a high inflammatory diet, you're just feeding, it's like throwing gasoline on the fire. You're feeding the disease. And now it's tough to do this. It's tough to make the transition because, again, I'm a chiropractor. And people come to us all the time, and they have neck pain and back pain. And I'll say, listen, we can treat you chiropractically, and in most cases, we get amazing results. People have bones out of place, 206 bones in the body. Any one of them can come out of place. And we adjust their neck, their mid-back, their low back, their ribs, their wrists, their feet, their ankles, their skulls. And, oh, my gosh, Dr. Joe, this is a miracle. I've suffered for 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. You guys have done miracles on us. We hear that not every day, but every few minutes. And it's great. But you got to take care of the chemical aspect. You need to be careful about what you're putting in your body to keep the inflammation down. Because if a bone is out of place, it creates inflammation. Then if you're eating a bad diet, that's causing more inflammation, increasing your pain levels. I'm one of the few chiropractors, maybe the only chiropractor in the state, board certified in pain management. And patients come to us from orthopedists, neurologists, neurosurgeons, hospitals. They send patients to us for natural pain management. Many facilities send us patients that have hardening of the arteries. They have high calcium scores in their blood, a risk of heart disease. Dr. Joe, please take a look at these people and see what we can do to get to the cause of their problem. And hopefully if you have these problems, you'll come see us as well. We want to get to the cause, and that's why I'm so big on nutrition, because you have control over what you eat. You don't have control over pinched nerves. You need to come see us and get that fixed. You don't have control over car accidents, maybe. And if you are in one, by the way, if you're ever in a car accident and the car was damaged, you were damaged 100% of the time. So if you're ever in an accident, whether it was yesterday, today, or 50 years ago, you need to come see us. Because bones are out of place, you have to get them put back in place if your goal is to obtain and maintain good health. If it's not, you don't mind being in pain, well, then don't bother coming to see us. So from a chiropractic standpoint, we fix the structural issues. From a nutritional standpoint, you got to stop putting the bad stuff in. And a lot of people eat a lot of acidic foods. Like we said, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweeteners, sugars. And we need to neutralize those acids. So I recommend everybody, with certain exceptions, take Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. If you don't know what they are, they're two supplements, they're two powders. I have them sitting in front of me right here. And it's the minimum amount of nutrients you should be taking every single day. It's prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes. The Essential Source has about 10 servings of raw fruits and vegetables in every scoop or every serving. Then the Super Greens alkalize the system, gives you iodine, like the person called earlier about the thyroid gland. Every cell in your body needs iodine. Most of us don't get enough of it. So if you're not taking Super Greens and Essential Source, go to my website right now, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, and try it. I think you'll be very happy with it. You can also get it on Amazon, too, if you have an Amazon account. You can also get my books there, my other supplements, my audios, videos. A lot of them are there, tons of them, no charge. That's my gift to you. So, folks, if you have a question, lines are open, 844-44-DR-JOE. If you need to reach us, that number rings through to my offices when I'm not on the air. That's why you keep it simple. We keep forwarding it, to the studio and then back to the offices again. 844-44-DR-JOE. The website, drjoeesposito.com, all one word, or Google Dr. Joe, number one Dr. Joe in the world. Hey, folks, tell your friends about the show. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know everybody's really busy, lots going on in their lives, and thank you. Thanks so much, because this is a show where we give you information on how to get well and stay well naturally. We don't do drugs, we don't do surgery, and I'm not against drugs and surgery. If you need drugs and surgery, I'm more than happy to refer you to my colleagues. We have orthopedic surgeons, neurosurgeons, vascular surgeons, brain surgeons, general practitioners, female doctors. We got everybody, not doctors that treat specifically female issues and female doctors. But we want to get you to the doctor that's going to be best for you. Even in my office, we have 6 doctors altogether, and we try to match the patient with the doctor who we think is going to be the best for them. Because sometimes it's a personality thing. Some people want girl doctors, some people want boy doctors. Whatever you want, we try to accommodate with you, because our goal is to get you well and keep you well. That's what we want to do. And so that's why this number, 844-44-DR-JOE, if you have questions, you can call in. That number rings through to my offices when I'm not on the air. So we're talking today about bread, and is it good for you? And the answer, unfortunately, is no. And there's a study published in Plant Physiology that modern wheat, this is wheat that's been hybridized over the past several decades, is capable of producing at least 23,788 unique proteins. And so what happens is everybody hears about the protein gluten. Now, gluten is found in a lot of different products, but it's the wheat gluten that has the issues, because corn has gluten in it. Now, corn is bad for different reasons, but it's not the gluten. The wheat gluten is where you start getting your problems. And whenever you put a protein in your body has to break the protein down into something called amino acids. And then amino acids get absorbed, they go into your liver, the liver sends it out to where it needs to go, and that's how proteins are utilized. If you put a foreign protein into the body attacks it. Bacteria, foreign proteins. genetically modified foods, farm proteins. And so the body doesn't know what to do. And depending, I guess, how foreign it is or how sensitive your immune system is, it can cause problems. And so if we're producing these new proteins in our food, we're hybridizing it and we're genetically modifying it, we as humans haven't seen this protein before, neither has our immune system, and it gets a little crazy. So really there's two tests that we can test for to see if somebody is allergic to wheat. If these two tests are negative, most doctors give you a clean bill of health, and they say that your symptoms are all in your head. I don't know what it is. Go home, you test are negative. Well, there's 23,788 proteins. So science has found numerous compounds in grains besides gluten that can cause problems. Now, unlike animals, this is going to explain why these plants have these problems in it. Plants can't escape from being eaten. That's why a lot of plants have defenses to discourage them being eaten, like thorns on a cactus is an obvious one. One of the things that wheat has is something called wheat germ agglutinin. Now, studies show that WGA, it's called wheat germ agglutinin, can have a direct toxic effects on the tissues of the body, including the heart and the brain. And in fact, it enters into your brain so easily that scientists are hopeful it can be used to deliver drugs for people with Alzheimer's, because it gets into the brain so easily. Your brain has something called the blood-brain barrier, and it prevents things from being absorbed from the blood into the brain. And if something can penetrate the blood-brain barrier, it could be fuel for the brain, but it also can cause problems. And wheat germ agglutinin passes into the brain so easily that scientists are thinking, we could just kind of piggyback a drug onto this and get it absorbed. The problem is the wheat germ agglutinin itself is bad. It can disrupt your hormone system, weaken your immune system, cause digestive problems, promote what's called systemic inflammation, which is inflammation throughout your whole system. So when people eat even the tiniest bit of wheat or wheat gluten, they can double over in pain and have to run to the bathroom. I had a secretary like that. If she was even exposed to it in the air, she'd be very, very sick. Studies show even if you're not gluten intolerant, these foods can cause inflammation and little tears in your gut, allowing unwanted substances to leak into your gut, called leaky gut syndrome. So you might not feel the slightest gurgle in your belly, but almost 50% of newly diagnosed celiac patients have no noticeable abdominal problems. So you can have a problem and not see a symptom. As a chiropractor, I'm big on this because 90% of your nerves don't feel pain. You don't feel your thyroid and your spleen and your kidneys and your earwax and your toenails and your blood pressure and your cholesterol levels, all controlled by nerves. So our doctors, we look for pinched nerves, whether they feel pain or don't feel pain, and try to unpinch them. Then we try to get the diet straightened out. And then if you have digestive problems, many times it's physical. You might have acid reflux, heartburn, burping, gas, bloating. We may have to adjust, actually manually pull the stomach down away from the diaphragm so that it relaxes and can do its job. So much of healthcare is physical, not chemical. And when you come in our offices, most of you will say, that's amazing. I show you how to test these things, and they're blown away by it. And we can't show you on the radio because it's physical. Let's go back to the callers. This question kind of ties in. Chris, how can we make your day better?
Yeah, I had a question about the chiropractic care. Would that be a better alternative than a radio frequency medial branch block?
In many cases, yes. Again, if you need the medial branch block, that's okay. But in most cases, when we find the bone that's pinching the nerve and take the pressure off the nerve, that solves the problem. Because with the block, what we do is, I don't do it, my orthopedic friends do, or neurosurgeons, they'll go in and burn a little nerve. And then you don't feel the pain, but it doesn't fix the problem. It just kills the nerve. And that's where my concerns come in, is you still have the problem. You still have the bone out of place. It's rubbing up against the other bones. The bones wear out. You get arthritis. Sometimes you need that. But I'd rather go conservative first and then get a little more aggressive later on. So I would prefer chiropractic first and then go for the block if we need to.
Okay, so I'm already doing the regular medial branch block.
Okay.
Doing the radio frequency, I asked if that was going to be a more permanent solution.
Right.
And if chiropractic care would help, instead of doing that first, is what I was wondering.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I would do chiropractic care absolutely positively first. And because once they burn the nerve, it's done. It's dead. If we can preserve, what we call virgin tissue that hasn't been operated on yet, that's a much better choice for me.
Okay.
Okay, Chris, if you want to come see us, 844-44-Dr. Joe. You can call us during the week, okay? Thanks so much. Let's see. Well, going to have to go to a break pretty soon. So if you're on hold, keep holding. If you have a question, 844-44-Dr. Joe. We're talking about wheat and why it's so bad. And there's a lot of components of wheat, not just the gluten and the sugar, that's bad. So we're going to come back. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the other chemicals that are in wheat that could be causing problems and what it's doing to your brain as well. The number here at the studio, 844-44-Dr. Joe. My website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. You can send me questions through the website. You can book appointments through the website. You can get my Super Greens and my Essential Source, which, by the way, if you're not taking them, folks, everybody should be taking them. Almost everyone should be taking them. My books are there as well. A lot of articles, hundreds, gosh, probably over 1,000 hours of radio shows, videos, all there for you 24/7. Folks, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. Do appreciate you spending time with me today. We're talking today about wheat and the grains that are used in wheat, grains that are used in bread like wheat. We're also talking about barley and rye, things like this, and what happens when you put them in your body and how it can actually cause a systemic issue, systemic meaning through your whole system. And if you have a reaction to the wheat germ, agglutinin, and the gliadin, these are all chemicals, components found in wheat, it can cause inflammation that goes through your whole body. When the whole body gets lit up, it can affect the digestion, it can affect circulation, and it can affect your brain. And that's something that's a real big issue. A lot of people don't realize. And a lot of people that have emotional issues, anxiety, depression, bipolar. Somebody just sent me an email this week about ADD. You never talk about ADD, Dr. Joe. I said, yeah, I do. Your stomach's job is to take proteins and break them into amino acids. And amino acid tryptophan becomes serotonin in your brain. And so if you have acid reflux, heartburn, burping, gas, bloating, chances are you're not digesting your food properly. So if we fix the stomach, pull the stomach, manually adjust the stomach away from the diaphragm, many times that solves the problem. But the other thing is if you're eating foods that are causing inflammation, if you're eating wheat, it can cause an inflammatory reaction, and that inflammation can get into the brain, and that can adversely affect the brain as well. So you might just think, well, I feel fine after eating a bagel. That doesn't mean it's not causing problem. So studies show that even if you're not gluten intolerant, it can cause problems. And that's where the seriousness of this eating gluten comes in. Many people come to me with sinus and headaches and chronic congestion, arthritis, joint pain, nutritional deficiency, lots of skin conditions. Tell you what, when people come in with skin conditions, eczema, pimples on the skin, undiagnosed like contact dermatitis, the first two things I tell them is get off wheat and go off dairy. Because dairy has a protein in it, and it can cause reactions just like the gliadin does. It's called casein in dairy. And when you put these proteins in the body, the immune system has to attack them because they're foreign proteins, and it can come out of the system the quickest way possible, which is usually through your skin. And I can't tell you how many patients over the years, including infants that come in with horrible eczema, that when we get their bodies working normally, we do chiropractic with them to get their nervous system working, we massage their digestive system, and then we get them on a gluten-free, dairy-free diet. So many people, in fact, I can't think of anyone ever who didn't say what a difference it makes. Like when I get people off artificial sweeteners and the headaches go away. And they go, my gosh, you're brilliant. I just read a lot. I guess I am pretty brilliant. Anyway, let's go back to the callers. Lexi, how can we make your day better?
Well, hi, Dr. Joe. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome, Lexi.
My name is Lexi. I was diagnosed a couple of years ago with binge eating disorder.
Yes.
And I'm looking for some recommendations that can curb some of the cravings that I get and the amounts of food that I get, but to get me on the right road to eating better.
I love that question. Okay. A couple of things. When I go into binge eating, and I was never diagnosed officially with it, but I would just eat and eat and eat. I would be stuffed, and I would hurt, and I still want to keep eating. And so what happens in cases like that, many times the stomach is not working properly because your stomach produces a chemical, a hormone called leptin. And leptin is released into the blood, goes up into the hypothalamus in the brain, and it tells you that you're full. So with people with binge eating, apparently this leptin communication into the hypothalamus isn't working properly. So do you have acid reflux or heartburn, burping, gas, bloating?
A couple of those, not all.
Okay. Yeah, so it could be that your stomach is pushed up against your diaphragm. And that's what I find in every case I've ever treated like yours, and there's been lots. If you go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, click on blog, and it has my articles, Dr. Joe's articles. And under there, I think it's like the 6th or 7th one down, I have an article on GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. Read that, and it talks about how in our office we manipulate the stomach and get it back into place. Second thing, Lexi, I want to get you supercharged with super high concentrations of nutrients. So I would recommend Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source because it's just super packed with all the stuff that your body needs. And I would take that at least once a day. If you're still having the binge issues, you might want to take it twice a day because that's why I say everybody should be taking it to give you the minimum amount of nutrients that your body needs. And in most cases, when we get the nutrients in, get you off the wheat and the dairy, get the stomach fixed, most people go back to normal, and they say, why didn't I do this sooner?
Okay.
All right, so there's your game plan. Anything else?
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. All right, thanks, Lexi. Appreciate the call. If you have a question, folks, 844-44-Dr. Joe. Also, follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram. We send out lots of good information there. What's cool about this show, and we've been doing it now. I've been on the air about 10 years on various stations. This is this station here. I've been here for about 5 years now. Is that it's changing the healthcare model. Doctors, hospitals, major universities come to me all the time, and they say, I never looked at it like that before. One of the major universities near my office asked me if I would teach endocrinology. And I said, and it's a medical college, and I said, you want a backcracker teaching your students endocrinology? And they said, no, we want you teaching our doctors endocrinology. Because the way you explain things, it's just a different way of looking at it. And we love the way you explain things, and then we can teach our students and our patients. So this show, single-handedly, is really changing the healthcare model, which is real exciting. And that's why I'm glad that you're listening, because you're now part of this trend of people taking responsibility for their own health and getting well and staying well. That's the key. Up to this point, back in the old days, 5 years ago, when you actually had insurance that paid for things, can you remember those days way back when, folks? You went to the doctor. But now doctors you can't get appointments. Doctors are dropping out of practice. Your insurance, $6,000 deductibles, $100 copays. Hopefully that changes soon. And you're going, wait a minute, I can't even afford to go to the doctor to find out what I need to do. What if I just found out what I need to do? That's what's great about this show. In most cases, not every case. Of course, I don't give up your doctors. But the tips we give you every day give you the tools that you need to get well and stay well. Journal of the American Medical Association published a report showing that gluten-sensitive people who still consume grains increase the risk of death up to 75%. Folks, if you're gluten-sensitive, if you get runny nose, if you get bloating, gas when you eat wheat, specifically wheat, but the other grains too, we're kind of covering wheat today. If you have these reactions, you need to stop doing it because you're increasing your risk of death up to 75%. Journal of Medicine lists 55 common conditions that can be caused by eating gluten. This is New England Journal of Medicine. Cancer, heart disease, osteoporosis, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, fibromyalgia, chronic pain, thyroid disorders, anemia, epilepsy, canker sores, lupus. If you're gluten sensitive, folks, all those things can be happening from it. Hey, got to go to break. If you have a question, give me a call, 844-44-Dr. Joe, 844-44-DRJOE. My website, you can order Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source, my Wellness Booster, my Seasonal Tonic. That's to keep the immune system strong. Boy, folks, if you're not taking that, you need to be taking it, especially in the winter. I take it every day. We have Dr. Joe's Intestinal Cleanser, my books, all there. And you can send me questions if you want, drjoeesposito.com. Hey, tell your friends about the show. We'll be right back. Hey, folks, thanks for being here. I do appreciate you taking time out of your day. This is a show where we teach you how to naturally get well and stay well. And it's interesting, been on the air, I don't know, how many years I've been on the air, 10, 15 years now, and been in practice 33 years, been lecturing for 35 years. And we never run out of things to talk about. There's always something to discuss when it comes to health. But if it's a little overwhelming to you, don't worry about that. There's 3 general rules I want you to consider. Number 1, have a normally functioning nervous system. This is the key. This is the trend in healthcare. This is where things are turning more toward physical health care. What does that mean? If you have a bone out of place, it can be pinching a nerve, causing pain. But 90% of your nerves don't feel pain. You don't feel your thyroid, your spleen, your kidneys, your earwax, all controlled by nerves. So if you have a pinched nerve, it can be affecting your health a lot more than just your pain. That's just part of it. You have to have a normally functioning digestive system, acid reflux, heartburn, burping, gas, bloating. These are all signs that you're not digesting your food properly. And if you're not digesting your food properly, it can cause an inflammation in the body, which we're going to cover in just a second, how wheat specifically affects your brain. And then you have to have a good diet. You have to make sure you're putting the right foods in your body. I always recommend the minimum amount of nutrients that you take in every day would be Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. These are the minimum amount of nutrients you should be taking. Most people don't get what they need. And so you can supplement, and that's why I have these supplements. I take them every day, at least once a day. If I'm going on a hike, if I'm going on a date, if I have a couple of lectures booked, a couple of TV appearances, a bunch of patients, I'll take a double dose. I'll take it once in the morning, once in the evening. The only complaint I ever got from taking Super Greens and Essential Source from patients is they can't take it at night because some people, they get too much energy and they can't get to sleep. Gee, what a problem to have, right? So we're talking to, and those are on my website, drjoeesposito.com, or you can just Google Dr. Joe, number one Dr. Joe in the world. Also available on Amazon. If you have an Amazon account, you can get all my supplements there, my books. Just, it's a little easier for you. Same thing, same prices on my website or on Amazon. So eating wheat specifically, and if you missed what we talked about, I don't want to recap everything. Go to my website. We're going to archive this show right away. Probably tomorrow it'll be up on the website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. And you go under media, and you'll see Dr. Joe's radio shows. You click on that. We put them on YouTube, and you can listen to them there. Videos of live lectures that I do, they're on YouTube as well. So I want to talk now about how wheat, like breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, and pastas, can destroy your brain. If you or somebody you know suffers from depression, insomnia, anxiety, dementia, nearly any other psychiatric or neurological disease, there's a good chance cutting out the grains is going to help them. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Let's assume I'm wrong. So what? I'm wrong. But if I'm right, which I am, you're going to say, wow, what a difference this is making. Now, it's a challenge to cut out specifically the wheat, but all grains ultimately would be great because they are just really concentrated sugars. But cutting out all the grains is great. But if you're going to eat grains, quinoa might be a better choice. Amaranth might be a better choice. Millet might be a better choice. Spelt is kind of like a version of wheat. And those would be better choices. Now, they're not great choices, but they're better choices. And see what happens. And like I said, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So what? You cut out wheat for a couple of days. You cut out dairy for a couple of days. Well, 2-3 weeks is what I'm hoping you do it so you can see the difference. And what will happen is most people do it, see the difference, and then just say, I'm done. Every now and then we have a patient that is human and drops out, and they go back to their old ways, and almost immediately, within hours, they're like, oh my gosh, you were right, Dr. Joe. Oh my gosh, boy, were you ever right. I can't believe I didn't listen to you. And then they do it the second time around. But don't be like those people. Just do it right the first time. You're going to be so much happier. So modern wheat really is an issue. And it isn't really all it's cracked up to be. And this is there's a book written called Wheat Belly by Dr. William Davis. He's a cardiologist, and he's an expert on wheat. And he has a lot of good things in there. I don't agree with everything he says, but 99% I think I do. There's approximately 700 million tons of wheat that are now cultivated worldwide, making it the second most produced grain after corn. It's called maize on the world market. It's grown on more land area than any other commercial crop, and is considered a staple, of course, in most people's diet, not every day, but every meal. So at some point in history, ancient grains were nutritious in a lot of respects, and modern grains aren't because they've been changed. Once we started producing these high-yielding crops, wheat became hybridized. Now, there's a difference. Somebody asked me this question, the difference between hybridization and genetic modification. Hybridized means we splice it, we alter it, sometimes we'll radiate it, and we'll change how it grows. Wheat used to be these amber waves of grain, real tall stalks. Now they're short. Why? Less energy is going into producing the stalk, and more energy is going into produce the grain. And it's high, and I'm going to cover this in a second, higher protein, higher gluten factor, higher wheat germ agglutinin. And so it's not the same stuff that your grandparents ate. And if you go to Europe, where a lot of wheat still is grown the old-fashioned way, you'll say it tastes better, it tastes different, and a lot of people don't have the same reactions. And I'm one of them. If I go to Europe, I can eat pastas and not have problems. Still a sugar, not a good food, but I don't have a lot of reactions. So Mother Nature had it all balanced out for us, and then we came along and started messing with us. Now, this Dr. Davis, He says that the wheat we eat these days isn't the wheat your grandmother ate. It's an 18-inch tall plant created by genetic research in the 60s and 70s. This thing has many new features nobody told us about, or we even expected, we meaning society, when we started doing this hybridization. There's new proteins called gliadin. Gliadin isn't found in old school wheat. And by the way, when they talk about wheat in the Bible, it probably wasn't wheat. It was probably spelt anyway. Now, I'm not talking about everybody else because everybody else is susceptible to gliadin protein that is an opiate, not just the gluten. Okay, so I have a reaction to gliadin. Everybody has a reaction to gliadin. Not everybody has a reaction to the gluten. This thing binds to the opiate receptor sites in your brain and stimulates appetite. And so people that consume wheat usually consume about 440 more calories per day than people who don't. Now, that I'm going to argue that point because what Dr. Davis is saying probably is true. But also, people that eat a lot of wheat probably aren't the healthiest people. So is it that they're eating wheat, which is why they have more hunger and eating more food, or is that they just have a bad diet? We don't know that. So, see, I don't agree with everything everybody says. Farming industry could change back? Probably won't. And the reason is it wouldn't be economically feasible because the yields are less per acre of the old school stuff. Dr. Davis said the movement began when people started turning away from wheat, and so the trend going back to the old school maybe is happening, and what's happening is people are giving up wheat because it's now in the news, and people are losing weight, they're feeling better, the swelling is going down in their bodies, so it really is something that's an issue. And normally if you eat wheat, you don't just eat, bread. What do? You put jelly with the bread, like a donut, or maybe you put butter on the bread. So maybe not the best thing for you. Folks, got to go to break. If you have a healthcare question, give me a call, 844-44-Dr. Joe. That number rings through my offices when I'm not on the air. My website, if you want to order Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source, my Wellness Booster, my Seasonal Tonic. Go on the website, find out about them. They're great during cold and flu season. Intestinal Cleanser, my books, archive radio shows, videos, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, number one Dr. Joe in the world. And we have all our products on Amazon as well if you have an Amazon account. Hey, folks, the number here, 844-44-Dr. Joe. Tell your friends about the show. We'll be right back. Thanks for being here. I am Dr. Joe Esposito. We're talking today about wheat and breads and glutens and wheat germ agglutinin and gliadins and all these chemical words maybe you've never heard of before, but they are affecting your life all day, every day if you're eating wheat products. And what happens is a wheat kernel has a germ on the bottom, the wheat germ, and that's where a lot of the nutrients are and the vitamin E. And then there's the bran, which coats it, and then there's the endosperm. The endosperm is essentially sugar. If you're eating 2 pieces of bread, it's about the equivalent sugar as eating a candy bar or close to a soda. And so that's a lot of sugar. And that sugar gets into the body because we're taking off the bran. The bran is the fiber that pushes everything through the colon. We're taking off the germ because the germ has oil in it, and if things have oil in it, they go bad pretty quickly. They go rancid. So what's left is just a white flour, and that's where you're losing a lot of your nutrients. And so it's just like eating plain old sugar. But there's other things, because you think, well, Dr. Joe, I just eat whole wheat bread. I'm fine then. Yeah, not so much. There's a powerful little chemical in wheat. It's known as wheat germ agglutinin. We covered that a little bit earlier. And this is what largely responsible for wheat's pervasive, difficult to diagnose health effects that it causes. Researchers now discovering that wheat germ agglutinin in modern wheat is very different from the ancient grains. Not only does wheat germ agglutinin kind of throw a monkey wrench into our assumptions about the primary cause of wheat intolerance, because we always thought it was gluten, but due to the fact that wheat germ agglutinin found in the highest concentration in whole wheat, not in the processed wheat. So the processed wheat, we take all the good stuff out, well, whatever good stuff there is, and then in the whole wheat, we're getting more of this WGA, this wheat germ agglutinin. Each grain of wheat contains about a microgram of the WGA. Even in small quantities, it can have profound adverse effects. It can be pro-inflammatory, immunotoxic, meaning it's toxic to the immune system, cardiotoxic, neurotoxic, affects the brain, the cardiology, the heart and the brain. It kind of flies below the radar because the serological testing, the blood testing we do against various gluten proteins and genetic testing, the wheat germ agglutinin, it's a lectin, remains almost entirely obscured. So we don't really test for it, and that's where the problems come in. Now, lectins, this is a whole nother lecture I'll have to do for one day for you, found in all grains, seeds, legumes, dairies, nightshades like potatoes and tomatoes are rarely discussed in connection with health and disease. So how many of you have any type of health problem? Raise your hands. Cardiologist problems, digestive issues, neurological issues, pain, obesity, skin rashes, depression, mood swings, wrinkly skin. Going to get some of that as you get older, but you don't have to get a lot of it. Has anyone ever said to you, well, we have to start looking out for the wheat germ agglutinin that's found in wheat that can be causing the reaction here? No, it's just not something that's discussed. And to my colleagues, I'm going to defend them here, I guess to their credit, they don't know about these things. I research biochemistry, nutrition, neurophysiology all day, every day. Have for 35 years. And so a lot of the research that's out there comes from this show. A lot of teachers play this show in their schools. I get phone calls all the time. Can we play your show in class as a health talk? Absolutely. That's colleges and universities, not just grammar schools. So it's a lot of good information, and that's why you don't have to know this stuff. I do the research for you. So Dr. Davis, we talked about him earlier. He's documented several hundred clinical studies on the adverse effects of wheat. These studies that he documented include neurological impairments unique to wheat, like cerebellar ataxia and dementia, which means people get dizzy. A lot of patients come to me. Of course, as a chiropractor, they'll come in and say, Dr. Joe, one of my problems is dizziness or vertigo. And one of the things I tell them is we got to get the nervous system working. You might have pinched nerves affecting the neurological input up into the cerebellum. Cerebellum's in the back of the brain. And that's where balance is. It's there, and it's also in the ears and the cochlear apparatus. And so when somebody's off balance, it's usually one of those two areas that we have to address. And many times, the skull or the neck bones are out of place, pinching nerves. So that's the physical thing that can be causing the imbalance. Then we have to look at the chemical component, and this is where we try to get people off wheat and dairy products. Heart disease, visceral fat. We talked about fat in the gut. Advanced glycation end products. We talked about that. That's something that actually causes the connective tissue to break down, like your skin. But as a chiropractor, I'm also concerned about the connective tissue that holds your spine together, and your elbows and your wrists and your knees. All this connective tissue is being eaten away by something called advanced glycation end products, which you get from sugar combining with proteins and acids. Acids eat away at the connective tissue as well. So this is why I try to get you on a more alkaline-based diet, more fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds, and things like Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source, because these are the minimum amount of nutrients your body should be taking in every single day. And then when you come to our office, or, I know the show goes around the world, we can do it over the phone or over the internet, and we can do a nutritional workup with you. And we can say, you know what, let's look at your diet. Let's try to cut this out. If you're going to do animal products, which I don't do, but if you're going to do them, I recommend organic only, because then you avoid a lot of the chemicals and the pesticides. And I don't want you doing animal products anyway, but if you do, because I'm a realist, you might want to consider organic. And then the Super Greens, the Essential Source, we customize a supplement plan for you. Not just those supplements, but other supplements as well. Raw food, I recommend something raw at every meal. That could be broccoli, cucumbers, tomatoes, avocados, because raw food has something in it called enzymes. And enzymes break down food. They reassemble food. They fight infection. They fight inflammation. And the enzymes can actually repair tissue damage. And when patients come to our office, they usually have tissue damage. Tissue meaning, your body. Pinched nerves, torn ligaments, torn blood vessels, tendons that are damaged. And we want to get you the nutrients that you need so that it can heal. And that's why I say this show is really changing the healthcare model, because people are looking at healthcare in a different light, and so now a lot of their doctors are too, and people like it. People with celiac disease, this is if you eat gluten and have a real adverse reaction. But again, 50% of the people don't have a reaction. When they get tested, they test positive for it. Cases where there is gas and bloating and diarrhea, this may require some long-term supplementation, because you haven't been absorbing your nutrients, and as the colon heals, you're still not absorbing them properly. You have to start getting those nutrients back up into the body. Once again, Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source really are part of this whole healing plan that I put together for our patients. So if you have celiac, if you have gluten intolerance, those are two different things. Gluten intolerance means you're having a reaction to it. Celiac means it's really blown up. And that means that I am running out of time. Darn, I had so much more to cover. Folks, if you have any questions, go to my website and send them to me, drjoeesposito.com. If you want to listen to archive radio shows and videos, drjoeesposito.com. If you want to order my supplements, my books, read articles that I've written, drjoeesposito.com. Great website. It's also available on Amazon, the supplements. Again, you can also Google Dr. Joe with the #1 Dr. Joe in the world. Hey, folks, thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show. We'll catch you next time. About the show.